They will outlast us if we do not sustain. The regime has lasted for 47 years because the energy goes out of these movements when they happen, and we need to not lose steam.
Look at this whole interview is focused on how this whole thing is impacting us as moral entities.
We're trying to do the right thing. Because we're trying to do the right thing.
Most of us are trying. I think that's my, that's kind of where I come down. No, we have a big responsibility for sure.
The way that Islamic Republic wants, that's what they want to see. They want to see everything go back to normal. Yeah, there's nothing to see. Come on, move along, move along. That's what they want to see.
They want us to be sad. They won't expect us to be happy warriors, to take the fight to them every single day. And I want to take the fight to the non-Iranians too.
This regime will go, and it's not going to be long before they're gone. They don't have any support from the people inside Iran, for sure. They don't have any support from the diaspora. And they have upset too many countries on the map.
Hi there. What exactly are you defending? It's a question that needs to be asked of anyone still rushing to defend the Islamic Republic whenever conflict breaks out between Iran and the West. Anyone framing this regime as noble because it opposes America. Anyone romanticizing it as anti-imperialist. Anyone minimizing its atrocities because they dislike Israel or distrust Western foreign policy. Okay, what exactly are you defending? Another Iranian was executed today, virtually a daily occurrence, sometimes in large numbers. Another life extinguished by the Islamic Republic. They killed him. His name was Irfan Shakurzadeh. Say his name. He was 29 years old and he was hanged in Karaj. His crime was being a spy, or the same kind of nonsense they trot out each and every time they are targeting any dissident voice. And with the execution of Irfan, the machinery continues. That machinery of fear and intimidation and a regime that has turned death into governance. So again, what exactly are you defending? Because there are many complicated debates happening right now around the world about war, about American foreign policy, about Israel, about imperialism, about hypocrisy, about power. Fine, have those debates. But somewhere in the middle of all those arguments, morality cannot completely disappear. And yet for years now, many people, including some in Western progressive circles, have tried to rebrand the Islamic Republic as some kind of anti-imperialist force worthy of protection or solidarity. Even now, as Iranians continue to flee this regime, continue to rot in its prisons, continue to vanish into its machinery of repression, some still rush to defend it. What exactly are you defending? A government that executes its own people at a highest rate in the world, a regime repeatedly accused by human rights organizations of sham trials, forced confessions, torture, and political executions, a state that hangs young men while demanding moral legitimacy on the international stage. And no, don't change the subject. Don't pivot away to America or Trump or Netanyahu. Don't pivot away to colonialism or oil or the bigger picture. None of those things resurrect the dead. And none of those things change the reality that the Islamic Republic remains an execution capital of the world. What exactly are you defending? Because for Iranians, these are not abstract geopolitical theories. These are sons and daughters and friends and human beings. And every time another young Iranian is hanged, the world should be reminded of what this regime actually is, not theoretically, but literally. A state that survives through fear, through prisons, through executions, through death. And today, another 29-year-old Iranian paid for that reality with his life. It's May 11th, 2026. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 438 of Roqe, Iran Rises. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Hello from Toronto. Salam Dostan Aziz, Durud bar shoma. I hope you're doing okay wherever you are tuning in from around the world. This is the 34th episode in our Iran Rises series. This one entitled, Do We Return to Normal or Not Yet? Once again, events inside Iran and around the Iranian diaspora are moving at breakneck speed. So we should note that we are recording this episode at approximately 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in Toronto on this Monday, May 11th, 2026. That's around midnight in Iran. And as always, we're going to share perspectives and conversations as up to date as humanly possible. Now, just before we get going, got a great panel today. Before we get there, if you appreciate our independent programming and you want to support us, you can do so on YouTube. If you like what we do as alternative, independent, totally independent media, just hit the super thanks button on YouTube and you can contribute to keeping Roqe alive and thriving. You press super thanks, and any kind of donation is something that we appreciate. We appreciate you. Now, coming up on this 438th edition of Roqe. For many Iranians around the world, the last number of months have not felt normal because they haven't been normal. There has been, as you know, grief and shock and massacres and executions and war and fear for loved ones. And for many in the diaspora, a conscious decision to put parts of life on pause out of sensitivity and solidarity with those inside Iran who have endured the unbearable. And maybe that pause mattered. Maybe it was important that during moments of immense suffering, many Iranians around the world chose reflection over celebration, right? But another question now begins to emerge. How long can people live entirely inside trauma before the trauma begins to hollow them out too? At what point do work, creativity, music, friendship, ambition, comedy, dating, family gatherings, cultural events, and the rebuilding of ordinary life stop becoming distractions from the movement and start becoming part of how we survive it? So on this edition of Roqe, what we hope will be a thoughtful and timely panel conversation about grief and resilience, burnout, purpose, and whether re-embracing life is not a retreat from solidarity, but perhaps a necessary extension of it, in fact. So joining us from Los Angeles, podcaster, comedian, and commentator Sina Ghaznavi. From Chicago, our friend, scholar, and author Dr. Sepehr Vakil. From Bournemouth, England, activist and advocate Dr. Laleh Tangsiri. And in Vancouver, a law enforcement official, community voice, and popular social media presence, Kamyar Mahinsa is back. Do we return to normal or not yet? Let's get to it. All right, let me tell you about Quasar Homes. Today's edition of Roqe is brought to you in part by Quasar Homes. Quasar is a name synonymous with quality, detail, and innovation in Toronto's custom home building and major renovations. Founded and led by Amir Firuz, Quasar Homes has become a trusted choice for families who want exceptional craftsmanship and a seamless building experience. With a passion for creating homes that combine elegance, comfort, and functionality, Amir and his team continue to raise the standard of living for homeowners across the city. They are particularly committed to environmental awareness and sustainability. They also happen to be the sponsors of the Roqe Media Icon Award. If you are anywhere in the greater Toronto area and you are looking to build or to renovate, consider Quasar. Check them out. Quasar Homes on Instagram at Quasar Homes. And let me tell you about Avoca Chocolates. This episode of Roqe is brought to you with the support of Avoca Chocolates. So in the last couple of months, I've been telling you how grateful we are that this small non-Iranian company in Toronto has stepped up to support Iranians in this time. Noni Fenby and her staff at Avoca have been making handmade artisanal chocolate in Toronto for over 30 years. Family owned and operated, they have dedicated themselves to the art of making delicious treats, including truffles, ice cream, and gelato made without compromise. Avoca has focused on high quality ingredients with fair trade chocolate, all made fresh daily in one of their 2 locations in East Toronto. If you are in the Toronto area, go and visit one of their great chocolate shops and thank them for their support and taste their delicious handmade chocolates. If you can't go in person, you can get their chocolates and products online at avocachocolates.com. avocachocolates.com. Thank you again, Avoca. All right, let's get to our panel for today. He is a popular commentator in social media, but also has had a lot of experience with frontline law enforcement and brings that perspective to questions of crowd control, state force, escalation, and what the regime's tactics reveal about its level of confidence or fear in Iran. Kamyar Mahinsa is back and joins us from Vancouver. Dr. Sepehr Vakil is a scholar, writer, educator, speaker, and recognized leader in the field of education. He is an associate professor of learning sciences in the School of Education and Social Policy at Northwestern University, where he serves as the faculty director of the Center for Technology, Policy, and Opportunity and the MS program in Technology, People, and Policy. His latest book is titled Revolutionary Engineers, Learning Politics and Activism at Audiomer University of Technology. He joins us today from the Chicago area in Evanston, Illinois. Joining us from Bournemouth, England, Dr. Laleh Tangsiri is a graduate of the Stockholm School of Dentistry. For more than 2 decades, she has been active in England as an entrepreneur, a member of Dentists Without Borders, and a pro-Iran human rights advocate. She's been very instrumental in organizing demonstrations in London and across the UK, and she is in Bournemouth today. And Sina Ghaznavi is an Iranian-American radio host, podcaster, comedian, and the executive producer of the Zero Cool creative agency. He's the host of Fraudsters and the Foreign Reports on the Last Podcast Network, distributed by SiriusXM, and he's a frequent co-host on the Karen Hunter Show on SiriusXM. Sina Ghaznavi joins us from Los Angeles. Hello to you all.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello to our returning favorites, and hello to you, Sina. It's nice to have you on the show for the first time.
Great to be here.
Okay, so how do we start this conversation? I was having a dinner with some friends this weekend, and one of my friends said she postulated that she believes that we are the only community in the world that deals with a major crisis by suggesting that members of our community should not be working and should not be having concerts or dancing or opening their businesses. I pushed back on this and said, I'm old enough actually to remember. I don't even know if anybody on this panel is old enough to remember, but I remember 9/11. I was a kid, but I remember it, and I remember that it was. The shock waves of what happened at that time in North America were so great that comedians were saying, we don't know if we'll be able to make jokes ever again. Late night talk shows were suspended. It was that kind of imperative to sort of not even be able to laugh or joke. And so my pushback would be, well, the scale of this is so large when we talk about the massacres that we all know about in January in Iran, that it affects the global community to the extent where, out of sensitivity, out of thoughtfulness, out of sheer trauma, we cannot be normal. So let me start with a basic question. Do you agree with my friend who still didn't think at the end of the day that it was right that Iranians have this proclivity to want to, in the diaspora, that is, to shut things down? Do you think the Iranian diaspora's decision to pause celebrations, nightlife, certain forms of normal life, if you will, over the past few months is the right and respectful response to the people inside Iran and what they've had to endure? Let's start with you, Sepehr.
Put me on the spot first and foremost. No, I think that some of that can be performative. I understand the instinct to do it. Let me preface it by saying I'm a little bit removed. I was born in Iran, spent most of my time in the U.S. I'm following it. My heart is with the Iranian people first and foremost. And part of my responsibility is to, like, my parents and my family members who are even closer than I am, and I see how impacted they are and the stress that they're under and the despair. And I don't think it's right to shame people for living their lives and moving on. I think everyone has a right to process and grieve in their own way. I'll tell you guys this, my family in Iran, the few times that I've been able to talk to them, they almost want to have a conversation that feels normal. They're asking me how my kids are, what's going on. And so I don't think that this idea that we have to stop and just only showcase our despair is the only or even the right thing to do. I mean, when I'm really trying to help my parents live a normal life and take sleep rest, take care of yourselves, because we need to be full and restored in order to keep our focus on the freedom of the Iranian people.
Okay, just to be clear, Sepehr, that would be your position, say in the end of January as well, not just in May now.
I mean, no, it's not. I don't think general rules can be really made, but I'm not one. I don't think the right move is to shame other people for for carrying on living their lives. I think we can do. I think there's a yeah. I'll start with that.
Okay, let's go to you, Kamyar in Vancouver.
I'm not surprised that this question has come up this early. It's only been a few months. It hasn't been years. We're not talking about a very long term. So the fact that this question is now being asked, I'm surprised and I'm not surprised. We're talking about work-life balance. If we consider activism as a part of work, because what happened in January, the massacre, the tragedy was such magnitude that it divided our lives into two, before and after. We're not going to go back to before, and for after, we have a responsibility, all of us. And if that didn't affect some people, they need to get checked because they're not human. But anyways, going forward, I think we thought that this was going to be a quick fix. That's why our focus was that this was going to be a short struggle, and then we're going to be free and all that stuff. I think what we have to consider is this may be or is going to be a long game, and for that we're going to need some kind of a sustainable strategy, in my opinion, a bit of work-life balance. And if we consider activism, advocating for the people of Iran as work, then that also applies that work-life balance. But that life part that you're asking, it's very, the range of itself is big. You're talking about concert, but you're talking about little businesses that they want to advertise. So it's very
I'm just
different.
beginning by asking if it's the right thing. It doesn't have to be. You can go back 2 months. Was it the right thing to pause celebrations? That's what I'm asking to begin with.
You know what? It was the responsible thing to do. What we have to focus on is at that time, or even now, I think our online activities, online presence should be still focused on what helps us fight, and that is our unity. So that's what we need to focus on. And yes, absolutely, I think that it was appropriate. But now, if we have a plan, if planning for a long-term fight with this government, then we have to be able to adjust.
Okay,
And
so
that's what I'm saying. But that balance needs to be planned.
Implicit in what you're saying is it's not sustainable over a long period of time to pause so-called normal life. I want to come back to you. You said a few things that are interesting. Let me go to Dr. Laleh in Bournemouth. Your initial reaction in terms of whether the global community has done the right thing in terms of saying, up till now at least, we should pause some of our what we would so-called normal activities.
I totally agree with Kamyar Jan. We have to still pause. We are still going through this phase of hearing every day there are executions in Iran. This morning, a young, intelligent guy called Irfan, I think Shakurzadeh, was executed. Fatemeh Sepehri, despite her heart condition, she's in prison. So I really can't go back to how I was before all this happened. Despite all of us having lives, we have celebrations, we have birthday parties, and, we want to plan our holidays. I used to have a couple of holidays, planned always. I'm not planning anything because our lives, whether we want it or not, if we care about Iran, is on a pause. And we have to be a bit patient. We have to understand this is a temporary time. In the last 47, we've never, ever become so close to the regime change. So why not be a little bit more patient? Why not still think, okay, if weddings and parties and a lot has been cancelled in Iran, we will sympathize with them and we will be patient and just give it a little bit more time.
Okay. Sina, your first word on this?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm glad you brought up 9/11 at the top of this too, because, for me, I was in high school, senior in high school, and I started doing comedy after 9/11. So for me, how I process these things is to get out there and laugh in the darkness. And I know that sounds maybe morbid, but that's how I process everything in my life. And that's how I actually am able to get close to how bad these things are. It's how I'm able to get really close to the morbid tragedy that's happening. As you learn about it, you can analyze it, and you could call out the absurdity of it. We have to understand, as Kamyar said, that this is a war of attrition, both emotionally, physically, and spiritually, and we have to keep moving forward. Everyone's going to be able to process their trauma in this in the way they need to do it. I don't judge anyone for that in any way. But I think at the same time, we have to know that the 79 revolution lasted an entire year. Okay. And so that is something we should have in the back of our minds, that this is going to take a while. And whether or not we get the resolution that we all want at the end of this, it's going to take a while. And we have to be able to. I have two small children. I cannot be as depressed as I was every single day in January. That would be detrimental to my family. So you have other things. I got a little brick for my social media that blocks the apps. I do things where I go out to kids' parties. And you know what the big change for me is? When someone says, "How are you doing?" I don't say fine. I say not good. And that usually sparks a conversation. And if we, I think go into our houses and go into ourselves and isolate ourselves, we're not getting out there for the people as much as we can. And I don't judge anyone for doing whatever they need to do, but this is how I've processed things my entire life.
Okay, that's a great start, you guys. Let me dive into this head first, if you will. And I should say that to out myself, I mean, Roqe has completely changed our programming over the last 5 months. We've had a number of live events that we canceled. We are going to now go ahead with Roqe Live in July, but I'm one of those people who personally felt it was right to change our programming and to cancel things and to sort of rejig things based on the current situation and based on just where my own heart and the team's heart was at and all of that. Not the best decision to make in terms of the economics of the program and the network, but what felt like the right thing to do. That said, Dr. Laleh, if I can ask you this question respectfully, you are a dentist, yes?
Yes.
Have you been practicing dentistry in the last 4 months at all?
I have been practicing, but nowhere close to how I was performing and running my services before January.
So if an Iranian American DJ says to you, "Look, I care about the Iranian people. I've been at the demonstrations. I've cried as well. But how come you get to do your job and be a dentist, but I can't DJ and post the fact that I need to advertise my DJing gigs online?" You say what to them?
It's a difficult one. I really can't, I'm not in their shoes, but to be honest, from my own side, as much as I could have, I've put my time on making sure I have been the voice. I have had my economic, struggles and running my practice and everything. But, it's a personal thing. And I've got colleagues who've been performing 100% on and off, coming to a protest. Everybody's different. A DJ may, not even have that question. A dentist might say to you, yeah, well, tough luck. I go to work and I do what I want to do. This has been happening for 47 years. We can't stop living. This is, what I've heard of many of my colleagues, that we can't stop living. We can't stop going on holidays. We can't stop celebrating. Everybody is different, and I respect that. But this is my view. I think even if I was in a different profession, I would have been the same.
I respect that, and I don't mean to pick on dentists because,
No, no, that's
but
fine.
you see where I'm going with the question, because I think
Yeah,
there are a
yeah,
lot of people in the
it's a
creative
fair
class.
question. Yeah.
There are people in the creative class who say, look, you at least have your work-life balance because you're still allowed to work. Certain musicians who can't play concerts, or comedians who can't do their gigs, or, might be saying, and you can extend that to club owners, or all kinds of people who work in that creative field who've had to shut things down for the last few months, will be saying, well, we can't do our work. So what do you propose? Cam, what do you say to them?
You know what? I can see both sides. I can see that businesses, obviously, they have bills to pay. They need to make a living like anybody else. I go to work and I pick up extra shifts, but I do my activism on the side as well. So I can't judge other businesses for advertising and wanting to go back to work, and they got bills to pay. It's a reality of life. At the same time, I understand the other side that having these parties and DJ concerts, that kind of stuff may send a signal to other people that that things are going back to normal, and that may create or give that sense of it's over, the sense of despair. It might make things the way that Islamic Republic wants. That's what they want to see. They want to see everything go back to normal. Yeah, there's nothing to see. Come on, move along, move along. That's what they want to see. So I can see both sides, and I think that if I say that people, if they want to go out and socialize and do all that stuff, that's great, but you don't have to make that public. It doesn't have to be all over internet. It doesn't have to be on social media. So for DJs to or concerts, that kind of stuff, you know what? That's a tough question. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But I understand both sides. I totally get it.
Dr. Sepehr, Cam, and Laleh, I mean, it's a good point to make, which is to say that we've been told, we've heard from them that people inside Iran, when they can connect, when they can see, are they take some energy and inspiration from us. When they see that we're out in the hundreds of thousands demonstrating, it means something to people inside Iran who obviously can feel quite isolated and repressed by this regime. So if they're tuning in and suddenly seeing that, well, everybody's back to, Shad's concerts and dancing and having a good time, it may be sending a signal that, yeah, well, it's over. We've forgotten about you guys. We've moved on. Sorry, your revolution didn't happen fast enough. To them, you say what?
You're asking me to chime in, Jian. I mean, I'll say it's about. I totally respect the complexity of this argument as well. I think it's about the way we go about doing whatever we're doing. Right. So I'm a professor at Northwestern, and I also do comedy, Sina. So I can't wait to talk more with you. And I've been doing comedy for about the last 2 to 3 years in the Chicago area. And as a professor, I'm not a Middle East history professor. I'm not a political science professor. I teach in a tech policy, AI policy program. I teach in an education program. Last winter, I was teaching a group of undergraduate students. These poor kids, every day, every start of our class, they had to hear about from 5 to 10 minutes of an update from me, their professor, about what's going on in Iran, right? And I did it in a way that was, at least in my best attempt, graceful and trying to, but I had a responsibility, right? This was a heavy thing that was going on, even though that wasn't the curriculum of the course. Same thing with comedy. My own mom, I think sometimes I drag her out of her house in Chicago to come join me and watch some comedy. I can tell she's morally conflicted. How can I be going and laughing in a comedy club when my people are being executed continuously and living in this time? And I respect that position, but she needs it. And for me, when I go up on stage, I've been constantly trying to figure out how to talk to the American public about Iran in a way that they can comprehend and a way that they can understand, because it's a very complicated issue. So some might say, why are you're going out on the weekends and you're at a bar and you're going up in front of people and telling jokes? That's one, there's truth to that. But like, I'm also trying to do it in a way that is soothing to myself, but also adds value and hopefully, pushes our collective struggle forward in a way. So I think it's about how we go about doing what we're doing, not necessarily any hard rules. The last thing I want to say about this is we have to continue to give each other grace. One of the most disappointing and hurtful things that I've seen in the last several months in the Iranian diaspora community is the infighting, right? And so the finger blaming, because it's such a politically difficult situation. And that makes me, that's very, sad to see. And so in this moment, is this a very moral question? How do we grieve? How do we continue? Yes, it is. And everyone has their own point of view, but let's be careful not to then use that as yet another reason to have another wedge or another point of conflict with our own people. That's what I would say.
But Sepehr, just to push back on that, because I think you started by saying we shouldn't be shaming anybody, and I've tried. I don't think anybody can find any evidence of me doing that publicly at any point, because I agree that it can be unhelpful at best. But I am one of those people who judged people. I would say, especially in the first few weeks, and even to a certain extent now, about depending on who the person is, and when those folks who are regularly active in social media and were saying nothing as people were being massacred in Iran, or when we're all saying, hey, be their voice and get out there and represent and tell the world about what's going on in Iran, and somebody's posting a video of themselves dancing or something, that was very difficult for me, and I wondered what I had in common with that person to be their friend or follow them in social media. So that's not something that I don't understand, and surely you can understand. Now replace me with somebody whose brother has just been killed in the streets in Iran, and they're watching that same dancing video of somebody having a good time, or unrelated to Khamenei's death or something like that. I mean, I'm talking about it's a very sensitive action, just like telling jokes after 9/11 was.
I think I'll just say this, and I'll pass the floor. I think we have to just do it with a sense of honesty, right? I mean, again, we're living our life. I have little kids too, right? So even as the situation in Iran continues to be dreadful, are there moments in my day that are joyful? They are, because that's the human experience, right? I'm with my kids in the morning, my wrestling, kushti bazi, all these things are happening. It doesn't mean that there's not an envelope of grief and sadness for my family who's in Iran, who's suffering this. We have to do it with a sense of grace, with a sense of honesty. We can't, for me at least, maybe other people are. I know, again, I mentioned up top, like my own mother, I'm seeing her, she's in much more despair than I am. But we have to be honest. We have to give grace. It doesn't mean we don't have judgments, Jian. We see people, we don't like the way they behave, but we all only have a limited bandwidth of energy to dedicate to certain things. My only point is, like, let's have our conversations, but let's not dedicate too much energy to shaming one another in this already extremely difficult moment.
Okay. Sina?
Yeah, I think the big thing we're talking about here is, are we going to move on? And I don't think anyone's moving on. This is not a move on thing. This is, can we fight while we live our lives at the same time? And I think we can do both things. I think we could walk and chew gum at the same time. I think we could do these. And I want to put in context the people of Iran, the air they have been breathing for 47 years is oppression. And they have been managing to find joy. I remember during the 12-day war last year, I saw a video of the line at an ice cream shop. It was like around the block. People were finding the joy anywhere they possibly could. So yes, we can have a concert, but that concert doesn't need to be devoid of a message of support for the Iranian people. We can have a wedding, we could have a party, we could have a thing, but we shouldn't stop reminding people that this is happening. We should remind people that the Iranian people, especially our diaspora, is so strong that we will not stop our lives for the Islamic Republic's repression. We will keep moving, and we will constantly remind the world that this is wrong, what's happening. The human rights violations have been going back decades, and they need to stop. That's, I think, what we should be doing. That, I think, brings more people into our tent, if you will.
Sina brings up an interesting point, Cam, which is that and sometimes we say, the regime wants us to move on and forget about what's going on, and it benefits the regime for us to go on with normal life. But on the other hand, a lot of people make the argument that the regime wants us to be ghamgin. The regime wants us to everyone to have shitty lives, and that it is an act of defiance for us to actually be going on with our, as an Iranian community inside or outside Iran, going on with our concerts and our celebrations and our whatever. Where are you on that?
Um, I, I, you know what? At this point, I totally agree with Sepehr. I think it's how you go about doing things, how much of it you make public. I have no problem with people want to socialize. You know what? Everybody should give themselves. They should allow themselves to heal, allow themselves to cope with this tragedy and what we're going through, even the executions that we see. So it's like just like tsunami of negative emotions. So there's got to be a way to balance that. But all I'm saying is we can do that. People can go socialize, go to concerts and all that stuff. But the responsible thing is not to advertise that on social media, online, on everything, all the dancing and stuff, because that would only play into the hands of the Islamic Republic.
So
And
go to the
that's what I'm
concert, but
saying.
go to the
We
concert, but
can.
don't shoot it. Go to the concert, but don't shoot a video at the concert.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. You know what? It's only been a few months. It hasn't been years. So we can go socialize with our friends without posting it online and say, oh, look, life is happy, where we know that there are executions going on. So that's the responsibility that I'm seeing is that, no, that's fine. Everyone copes in a different way. Cope in your way. If that means you go out, you socialize, you go to concert, whatever it is, but you're responsible to the cause and this movement, whatever you present outside, that responsibility, because they are watching us in Iran. And if we change that vibe, then it affects them. And we need to be very mindful of what we present online.
Dr. Laleh.
I completely agree. I think it's more about the way our behavior and how we show our empathy at all times. We can't just, just imagine your friend calls you and says, her dad's passed away like last night, and you have a holiday booked for the day after. Are you going to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, sorry about your loss," and you know this family? You're still probably going to go on your holiday, but you're not going to post like party, clips from your holiday, would you? Because you know that your friend who has lost her father is in pain. So you've got to know that when you are posting, and especially if you have a public account, whatever you are posting, there are millions of people who would see that. And do you want those images to hurt your people, to hurt your friends? Of course, if my friend is doing that, I'm going to be hurt. I'm not going to lie. In this matter of what's happening in Iran, my empathy comes first. I would definitely not go to a concert with Shisho Hasht. Okay, I mean, Shine Najafi, he's not Shisho Hasht. He is actually somebody who's, I'm hoping that he's, as before, going to present the Iranian people. But you have to be mindful. You have to be mindful that these are difficult times and it's only temporary. And whatever we do, it's got a big impact on everybody. All of us are psychologically not the same people that we were a few months ago. Our tolerance is not the same anymore. We are tired, we are fed up. Whatever we do, the regime is going to take advantage. They want to make us be sad, take advantage. If we are happy, they're going to take advantage and say, look at them. They didn't even care about you. And everything we did for months and months, going to these, demonstrations, trying to be the voice of our people, whenever the blackout is over, the regime is going to take advantage of it. So let's be mindful.
Yeah, it's well said. Sina, let me ask you as a comedian. I don't think he would mind necessarily us using his name or talking about it. Max Amini made the decision to continue touring, doing his comedy gigs when a lot of Iranian people in that space were not doing it anymore. And he definitely got some pushback from some corners of the internet from the Iranian diaspora. But what a lot of people said the difference was, and that it was okay that Max was still doing his gigs, which were huge gigs, by the way. He's probably the biggest comedian, one of the biggest in the world now, and he's playing arenas. The difference was his audience is 90% non-Iranian now. And so it's okay for him to do the gigs, and especially because he uses 5 minutes of his show, et cetera, to talk about Iran and to educate. But that it's a different imperative, it's a different set of expectations if you are dealing with an Iranian audience. Do you agree with that?
I don't think so. I don't agree with that. I think the expectation is we should be bringing more non-Iranians into the awareness of what's happening in Iran. That's been the fundamental problem. It's just been us. Every time from the 99 student protest to 2009 Green Movement to, what happened, Xinjiang, Azadi, every movement that has happened, I have felt, and I'm sure everyone on this panel has felt invisible because the news covers it for a couple weeks and then it goes away. So I don't think the people that we need to speak to as performers are Iranian, that we need to get more people talking about it all the time, non-Iranians specifically, because that's the whole problem here is that people remember a Green Revolution, what happened? Why did it stop? Michael Jackson died. Everyone stopped talking about it because MJ died. If we were talking as a global community constantly, then we could have tried to push through that. But this is what happens when we stop. This is what happens when we let non-Iranians push us into being invisible again, because we're all too used to being basic, external martyrs for our people. And so we have to keep pushing. I don't agree with this thing. And frankly, I've known Max from back in the day. He was never a big political comedian, so I don't really judge him too much. He's never been but me, from 18, I've been doing politics. That's just me. It'd be hard for me not to do it. So that's his lane, and he's been always doing that way. So I don't begrudge him to do it, but I'm happy. I hope that he does more and brings more awareness because his audiences are big and he could push people to talk about it. I want to ruin more conversations when I go to dinner and talk about what's happening in Iran. That is my goal. I want non-Iranians.
You made a really good point, but I'm not sure it answered my question. I'm talking about, Dr. Laleh brought up Shaheen Najafi. His audience is not non-Iranian. So, he can try and say, hey, non-Iranians come to my concert, but the 5,000 people in there are Iranians as opposed to his audience. So, does he have a different responsibility is the question.
Does he have a different responsibility to the non-Iranians or to the Iranians?
Does he have a different responsibility in whether he goes ahead with his gigs, whether he continues to sell tickets, whether he continues to promote, whether he continues to play fun songs or whatever, if his audience is Iranians and he's speaking in Persian, say, as opposed to somebody whose 90% audience is non-Iranian?
Here's the thing to take into consideration. What is the totality of this person's external presence, especially someone that's a public figure, right? What are they doing? Are they doing their gigs? Sure. What else are they doing? Are they doing the activism work? Are they doing the awareness work at the same time? We've talked a lot about not posting if you go to a concert or not posting if you're dancing and stuff like that. But what if it's one post out of 100 where you're dancing, right? Is that okay? And all 99 other posts are about Iran? I think that's okay. I've done pop culture shows and I've posted the clips for that, but 99% of my other clips that are online are all about Iran or some other Iran adjacent topic. So I think we got to look at the totality, especially of a public figure, of what they're doing to forward the cause.
Yeah. Can I add to that really quick?
Go ahead, Sepehr.
Because I went to see Max Amini recently at the Chicago Theater, and I dragged my mom along with me. And I think comedians, Max Amini, anyone, artists in general, DJs, there is a responsibility. So let's not lose that. I think we're all agreeing on that. There is absolutely, if you claim to be Iranian, if you claim to be a friend of the Iranian people, then yes, whoever you are, dentist, DJ, comedian, student, human being, you have a responsibility to show up and show your empathy and solidarity with the Iranian people in the way that you know how to do, right? And Max Amini came and he did a great set, and most of the crowd in Chicago were not Iranians. There were some Iranians. They held up Free Iran posters. He did a little bit of politics, not too much. To Sina's point, I think overall in his totality, he's showing. Now, some people might not like him because they don't agree with his politics, right? There's those people too. They think he's too pro-war. I've heard that a lot from people. Look, I happen to think that he did a good job, and I think he educated the 3,000 people who were in the Chicago theater a little bit about Iran and about the revolution and about what's going on. And that goes a long way. It's easy to throw stones, right, from outside the castle. I think a lot of the public figures who are Iranian, they bear the burden and the responsibility of showing up for their people, and we should all give them grace in how they do it. It doesn't mean we shouldn't have judgment, but someone might like how Maz Jobrani does it. Someone might like how Max Amini does it. Someone might maybe doesn't
But
like
you
the
think they do? But you think they do have a responsibility?
We all do,
Well,
100%.
isn't that a bit different from what you said earlier? Because you said earlier, I don't care what other people do. It's not
I didn't say that. I
up
didn't
to
say
me
that.
to judge.
I didn't say that at all. I think there. I said we should have grace in how we evaluate one another, right?
Right.
I think we all have a deep responsibility. I care. I'm looking around. I'm bringing up politics, as I mentioned, in my classroom, in classes that have nothing to do with Iran, right? But the way that we do it, we're all figuring it out, and it's complicated. Look at this whole interview is focused on how this whole thing is impacting us as moral entities.
Because we're trying to do the right thing. Because we're
trying
trying to do the right thing.
most of us are trying. I think that's my that's kind of where I come down. No, we have a big responsibility for sure.
Cam, you said something I think that really resonated earlier, where you said, we didn't know how long this was going to take, and sometimes these things take a lot of time, and it does raise a question. I mean, that I think we're all dancing around. At what point does continuing to put our life entirely on hold become emotionally, if not economically, and in other ways, unsustainable? What say you to that?
Well, going back to the work-life balance. There is only so much we can go on either fighting or living with the stress and chronic stress and pain and despair. So at some point we got to start looking after ourselves. We need to go back to being healthy so that we can fight a longer time. We can sustain this fight. So I think that balance is very key, and that balance is different from individual to individual. It's like a coping. The responsibility is different from individual to individual. Somebody with a high profile has a greater responsibility. Someone with a smaller presence then has their responsibility. So I think we have to dig in and plan for long term and have a strategy for that work-life balance or work-fight balance, work activism balance to be able to sustain this. And I totally agree with Sepehr that we need to do this in a way where it brings us together. So we have to be mindful of that as well. So if we are posting, if we're showing, displaying things that we know it's going to create controversy, and that controversy is going to create the rift, then maybe we should think again about that.
Mm,
So it's
mm.
all about how you deliver that and what your strategy is, and it's different from person to person.
But just on that point, I know I'm nitpicking, but I'm doing it because it's a very irrelevant, I think, to a lot of the folks I know. These questions are big questions for people in Toronto who, like I say, want to do the right thing, and are struggling because they also want to do their job. And when you say don't advertise, don't post it, etc., that might be okay for the punter who goes to the gig, but the person who's doing the gig has to at some point, back to the example of a DJ, a DJ, if it's a big name and they're going on a tour, they have to promote the tour. They have to sell tickets. They're not at liberty to not tell anybody that they're playing the gig except for when they come to the gig and enjoy it, So I mean, do you think, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Cam, but is it okay right now for a DJ to say, I'm starting my tour and I'm playing gigs around the world. I might be of Iranian background and care about what's going on, but I'm selling tickets and I expect people to come and go back to what I'm doing because that's what I do.
You know what? I think that's the same as anybody else advertising. This person is advertising their business, that's their livelihood, that's what pays the bills. So I don't judge that person for advertising their business, just like anybody else who would advertise their shop or their services. So I can understand that. But what I'm talking about is not people, businesses that are trying to survive, and they have to survive advertising. I'm talking about somebody's new dance move on social media because they went to this concert. That's what I'm talking about. So that can be, we can do without that. But if somebody needs to advertise their business in order to survive financially, you know what? I don't judge that person for what they're doing. I go to work. I don't advertise. I don't have to advertise it, but I go to work. So I don't fault people for wanting to continue their business and pay the bills.
I think in this case I could actually name names because I don't think he would mind. I'm speaking about. I mean, I was talking about the generic DJ earlier, but Namito, who is a fabulous creative artist and DJ, Iranians, lived in Germany for the last few years. He put up a very moving video a few days ago where he said, "Listen, I'm starting my tour again, and um, I'm not doing this necessarily." And he's been very active, in terms of supporting the Lion and Sun Revolution, etc. But he said something along the lines of, "I'm not doing this because I for money or to for my job or whatever. I'm doing this because this is what I do. This is my life. This is what I've been doing for many years. It's what I love to do. It's what I went into this. It's why I went into this profession, and I can't not do what I'm born to do, what I've been doing for years, and I'll do it in a respectful way, and I'll do it in a." I just thought he positioned it very passionately and personally, and when we talk about sometimes about, I can't believe this person is playing a concert, or I can't believe this person turned up at that party, we forget that there's human beings who this is what they do. This is what he does. He's a creative artist, and to tell him, no, you got to pack up your stuff and you can't be a DJ right now is a tough one. Dr. Laleh, you talked very personally about how the toll this has taken on you, and that resonates for me because sometimes I just feel like exhausted from the last few months, and almost everybody we brought on the show in the last few months has said exactly that. How are you? I mean, you're a doctor. How are you trying to achieve what Cam was just talking about in terms of that work-life balance?
Um,
Sorry, and continue to support, in terms of the organizing that you do with the revolution, and to not just sort of wash your hands of it and go, well, I put in my time and I'm done.
well, I have to say it's not easy. It's not easy to, find the balance between your work and your activities, in terms of carrying on as we were doing in January, when we all thought it's probably going to be a month or maybe just a few weeks, and now it's taken longer. And if somebody tells me I'm not tired, I would say they are lying. We are all tired. It's not easy. Any of us who's got family, we don't we can't pick the phone and speak to our aunt, who the only lifeline they had was probably speaking to us, and maybe doesn't have anybody around. We were the only family, and we left Iran so many years ago. I have an auntie in this situation in Iran, and it's definitely very difficult. I mean, I'm not doing the normal activities I used to do before. I used to play a lot of paddle. I'm not doing it anymore. As much as I want to do it, I just don't find the time. And every little time I find, I'm just trying to advocate, be somewhere, try to be a voice. Yesterday, for instance, we were in London in a very big rally against anti-Semitism, which you probably heard about.
Yeah.
It was number 10 Downing Street. And after that, we heard at the wall of Javid Namha, our martyrs, in Golders Green, which for the last few weeks, probably you know about the news that there's been a few terrorist attacks there. They told me there is going to be an Israeli minister. I only had about half an hour, a little bit more, 50 minutes, to get myself from number 10 to Golders Green. They said he has to leave very quickly. And you know, when these guys come in their black cars, they come in this area with all this security, and I was invited. I had to make it because I thought I should be there. This guy has come from Israel. The first place he's come to is Divar Javidnama, and somebody has to tell them how the situation is. I know they know better, but they probably don't know it enough. And if I can be that voice to tell them how much our people are suffering in Iran and what is really taking for them to survive these days, these times, the economic pressure, the blackout, the executions on a daily basis. Maybe if I'm illiterate, this was, we were talking to the Minister of Integration, Minister Offer, his name is. And I made it. And I said, look, you need to look at this whole, look at all these people, all these youth, all these lives taken. If you guys don't do anything, we are going to have 7th of October, on and on and on. So please, please do whatever you can in your power, because these are crucial times. We all have to do whatever we can do. And please hear the voice of the people in Iran. They are suffering. And we all need to be this advocate. We need to speak to people. We need to be in universities, speak to people, educate them, let them hear more and more about Iran. We need to be on the streets, but we need to be in places where there are people who their minds need to be changed. They need to understand what the people of Iran are suffering from.
So do you give yourself days off from this?
Absolutely. I did. There are some days I just can't carry on. Some days that I can't come out of bed because I feel so shattered, so tired. And there are days that I could be in several interviews. I could do so much, but
And on the days when you're not doing things, do you feel guilty?
I feel guilty. I feel so bad. And sometimes I've said to myself, enough is enough. I have 2 children. I have a business which is not, doing what it was doing in a, very, one of the best businesses in South UK. It's really not very healthy anymore. But this guilt is not leaving me. Every day, waking up, seeing the faces of these youth being killed, executed, younger than my own children, I just, the night, I sleep with, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to put some time for my family. And, why is everybody else not doing as much as maybe us? Sometimes I could be selfish and think this way. And then I just break my promise.
Sepehr or Sina, do either of you want to come in on this question of finding the balance before I move to a couple of final questions?
I think I would just echo some of the points that have been made, is that we have to find the balance. When this started in January, I was getting just, I'd be in bath time with the kids and I'd look at my phone and you'd see some horrific thing and I'd be like, I can't, this is a destructive thing to keep exposing myself to. So I started trying to plan my exposure to it in more thoughtful ways. And I think that is a suggestion I would give to everybody, because when the bomb started, and also I lost my father in early February. So in early February, lost my father. Late February, the bombs started dropping. January was the massacre. So it's been like Q1, pretty rough. And so I'm trying to figure out how I can last, because I didn't think this was temporary. I know this is going to take a very, very long time. And I would just hope that people, and I'm glad Laleh's taking time off and taking days off. I think that's super important. But I think everyone needs to think about that, because they will outlast us if we do not sustain. The regime has lasted for 47 years because the energy goes out of these movements when they happen, and we need to not lose steam.
Let me maybe try asking that. Thank you for that. And once again, sorry for your dad. I know I've been there. Let me ask the question a different way before I get to a final question to you guys. There was we had a demonstration here in Toronto as well yesterday, Laleh John, and it was part of it was about remembering, keeping the names and the faces of those we've lost alive, and part of it was sort of a tribute to mothers, and part of it was about the digital blackout, but. I was kind of involved in a tangential way in the organizing of it, and in one of the meetings, they were talking about when you have a rally, in between speakers, or maybe sometimes you don't even have speakers. You want the rally to be 2 or 3 hours long, or at least a couple of hours. You usually play some music. Or you play something on the loudspeakers, and in this meeting, they were going, "We don't know what to do anymore because." If we play happy sort of shawd music, people say, well, "What are you doing? Like, why are you bringing? You're dancing in the middle of these sad times." And if we play sad music, we get complaints because they say, "Why are you bringing this down and making us all feel like so sad? We can't, chant the chants and etc." It's one of these questions that if you take most people at their and believe that most people are trying to do this with their heart in the right place, I guess the question would be moving forward. How do we honor those who have suffered or been killed inside Iran without turning permanent sorrow into the defining condition of diaspora life? Who wants to take that first?
I'll be very brief, okay? I think that's a serious issue, Jian, and I'm glad we're having this conversation to deal with it. We can learn from other revolutionary cultures and movements around the world. Right? Whether it's the Black civil rights movement here in the U.S. I remember there was a pub I used to go to in the Bay Area. It was an Irish pub, and they had a poem, I think, from James Connolly that talked about the centrality of dancing and joyfulness and poetry in the face of very difficult situations. And we see there's many different historical examples we can point to. In that way, joy can be a form of rebellion. We can't have a default position of sorrow, in my view. I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think it's going to be effective, right? In combating this. So I think we have to embrace the full of humanity, and we can't forget the role of the arts, of comedy, of dance, and all this stuff, and not be so Puritan about how we divide up the lines of what's permissible and what's not permissible.
Okay. Dr. Laleh, how do you answer that question? How do we avoid that permanent disposition of sorrow?
I don't know. It's very difficult. I really don't have a good answer for it. I'm sorry.
That's a good answer. That's fair. Cam?
It's like anything else. I think it's very important when you're dealing with an illness, just like this. Let's call it an illness. If you're dealing with an illness, then you're going to try to take steps to make yourself healthy again. So by doing that, so it's very important, I think, when I'm going through some emotional times, it's very important to focus on something positive and continue our routines. Going out, going to the gym, doing things that make you happy and take you out of that mindset space. So I think one of the things that we can do is to continue our daily routine and not feel that if we take a pause, it's indifference. It's not. We can't shame ourselves into that guilt that if we're doing that, then we are betraying the cause, the movement, all the people that lost their lives. No, we have to be serious. It's like the airplane when they say that if the oxygen levels drop, and the oxygen mask, put it on yourself first and then help other people. So that's the same type of analogy that we should be looking after ourselves with a strong mind, strong body, healthy, then we can have the strength to continue this fight and move on. So part of that is to look after ourselves and continue with our routines. Life and death are the two faces of the same coin. So we need to fight. We need to stay healthy and live to fight another day. So I think that's very important to remember that it's not indifferent.
Sina.
Yeah. Listen, I think we all need to be happy warriors. And the late John McCain said this to me when I had the 5 minutes to meet him one time. I said, "How do you do it?" And he said, "I'm a happy warrior." He like gritted his teeth, and he's a real serious man. But think about that. I lift weights now. Okay, these spaghetti arms are lifted. Why? Because I'm ready to fight every day now. You're not going to get me down. I cannot, because the darkness, when it sets in, it's deep. It's never ending, and we will fall into that. And our people, look at our films. How many rom-coms do we have out there? Not many. We have a lot of sad movies out there. We gotta power through this stuff. They want us to be sad. They won't expect us to be happy warriors, to take the fight to them every single day. And I want to take the fight to the non-Iranians too. I want to take the fight to the people that are denying that how many people were killed in January. I want to take the fight to all the people that are victims of the propaganda that's been happening. And no one should send me a damn Lego video anymore. That's the fight that I want to be doing right now. I'm sorry, and I just feel so fired up about this now because frankly, I'm so happy we had this conversation because I think we do need to fight even more, and we need to do so, and we're going to relish every minute, and we're going to take this regime down one day. It's going to happen one day. It may not happen this year.
I see. I love when you say that, and at the same time, maybe I'm too caught up in my own mind. I say, well, what does that mean? What does being a happy warrior mean on a day when, as Dr. Laleh pointed out, we woke up this morning to see another execution of a young person for, God knows whatever cause they have, the regime at this point to execute people. How do we accomplish happy warrior in that context?
It means giving your space to cry, giving yourself space to do that, which I do, and giving your space to laugh, giving yourself the grace to do that, and giving yourself the power to attack, because all of these things in the human experience make us human, and the goal of the Islamic Republic is to dehumanize. And so I won't let that happen. So I'm giving myself space to be sad, and I was sad a lot. But you know what? We're going to power through, and that's what we need to do. They can't get us down. I think about my mother's experience coming to America, not knowing the language, coming up, raising two kids. My brother's a doctor. I am lawyer. It's like she did it, okay? Despite every challenge against her, she was able to do it. She does not get sad. She gets upset, but she keeps pushing on. We cannot let them, we can't let them in. Yes, I do look at the execution list. I'll admit it. I look at them and I get extremely sad and I will get very depressed. And I take that, and that is part of my experience. That is now part of me. But then you know what? The next day, I can't let that take everything away from me. I got to push through.
Okay. I'm so grateful to all of you for this is not an easy conversation, and I think so much of what's been said today in all kinds of perspectives will resonate with people who are watching this and listening to this. A final question to you, maybe a less heavy question, or I think all of you or all of us have intimated that this thing is not this process, this hope or expectation of accomplishing freedom and a secular democratic Iran is not something that is going to happen overnight and is expected to happen tomorrow. Just in general, to tag along to this question of returning to normal life as we continue to this war of attrition, if you will, of wanting to support and be there and be part of the effort for change in Iran. How are you feeling in general about the prospects of change in Iran? And I'll start with Sepehr, and then go to Dr. Laleh, and then Sina, and then Cam. So Sepehr, you're up first.
I'm gonna play my academic card here and say this is actually not something that I can say too much about. I don't know enough about the details of what's going to happen and the politics of what's going on. I want to stay hopeful. I want to stay hopeful. It's been difficult. It's not hope isn't definitely in abundance. But I don't know how these things play out, and I'm going to defer to my colleagues here who might have more perspective.
Okay, Dr. Laleh, how are you feeling about the prospects of change? I mean, I get we all know it's eventually going to come, but I mean, in the foreseeable future.
I think despite, all the sad news we hear from Iran and what we hear on the news that may not be exactly what we want to hear from the news, this regime will go. And it's not going to be long before they're gone. They don't have any support from the people inside Iran, for sure. They don't have any support from the diaspora. And they have upset too many countries on the map. So this is my opinion. I don't think, somebody who's been bullying other people for such a long time, everywhere. And they've had all the appeasement in the world against them, all the appeasement from every single country, including this country that I'm living in. For years, we've been fighting to put the IRGC proscribed, to put them on the terrorist list. So much has been done to shut down the embassy. They don't do it, but it will happen. I mean, we do need this intervening of America and Israel, but the last mile would be done by the people of Iran, and they will do it. And we will be alongside them. We will be their voice. We will be here for them, advocating as much as we can.
Yeah, you remind me that at some point we have to do an entire program on the UK and the quiescence or indifference or active enabling of the regime by the successive UK governments. It's a really tough situation. Thinking about, I mean, we have our own frustrations with the Canadian government here, but we finally got the IRGC on the terrorist list here. But the UK is just as the country of my birth, is just such a disappointment in general. Sina, where you're at in terms of your hopes or your expectations for change?
Well, I'm happy you added you when you said the question, you said, how are you feeling in general? I was like, oh God, he's going to ask this. And then you added the next part. So I was like, happily that you did that. I think I read a lot of Kareem Sarjapour. I think he said it best. This is the end. How long it takes is really the question. The regime itself has so few true believers left that is what was propping it up for so long. And as long as the money stops getting funneled, right? The sanctions aren't working. There's too many loopholes, all these things that are happening. As long as that is able to happen, that would speed up, I think, the fall. But I think that's going to be the function of how long it takes. I think this is the end. How long it takes is really going to be the question.
Final word to you, Kamyar.
John Lennon put it the best. All will be well at the end. If it's not well, it's not the end. We'll fight on, and we'll fight on until there is no more fighting, and we'll free our people. We'll free the world. I think the timeline is irrelevant. We'll fight as long as we have to, and we don't. I don't think anybody knows how long it'll be. So we'll just take it one day at a time. And we'll do what we have to do and try to do better every day.
Nicely done. You guys really turned it around. I'm feeling really inspired now. That was really, really well done. Listen, thank you to all four of you. Vraiment merci. I really appreciate the time you all put in. You're all in different parts of the world right now. Thank you for this. I know the audience appreciates it. We'll get a bunch of feedback. We'll share with you. Merci, and I can't wait to have you all back on again. Thanks, guys.
Merci,
Thank you. Nice meeting you all of you.
Pleasure to meet you all.
Bye.
One of the more emotional panels we've had recently. These are tough questions. I appreciate all of those folks for coming on from different parts, different corners of the Iranian diaspora. Thanks to Cam, Sina, Sepehr, and Laleh. We appreciate you. If you are watching this or you're listening to this and you have thoughts on this, by all means, share them with us. You can email us at info@roqemedia.com, or of course you can post your comments on any or all of our platforms in the comment section on Apple, on SoundCloud, Castbox, Telegram, YouTube, etc. This is full time for this edition of Roqe. Thank you. Thank you to the amazing core team who put this show together twice a week. That will be Savvy Roham Meher, Super Parisa Sanjirani, and the photo and video queen, Tina Farahi. Special thanks as well to Smart Pega, Charming Kimia, the CK, Talented Anahita, Kave, and the Rising Keon for your help. Thank you to all of you for supporting us and sharing our content. The methodical comment, that's what I meant to say. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already on any or all of our platforms. Subscribing is free. And just head over there and press subscribe, and you'll get updated on when new episodes of Roqe come out. You can find us on Instagram, as you probably know, at Roqe Media. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. And as ever, as I like to say every show, Mizun Bashi.